Luis makes $20,000 every single month from his rental property portfolio. And in this video, he broke down step by step how he was able to grow his rental portfolio in the last couple years. And the craziest part is that he did all of this while working a full-time job. Now Luis is looking to invest outside of his local market and actually invest out of state, and he's gonna share some tips and tricks about that. With that being said, let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Martel and Friends podcast. I'm Antoine Martel, and today I am with Luis. Luis, thanks for meeting with me today.
My pleasure.
Course. So I want to start it off very early. Why real estate investing? You're a real estate investor now, but like start me back from the very beginning. When did you become involved in real estate and why?
So I started about 3 years ago, right in the hair of things with the COVID pandemic and all that stuff. I've successfully have a good career. I've had about 16 years in my company. And during COVID, I saw so many folks just falling off the wall like flies per se. And even though, I felt like I had my job stability, I just thought to myself, I'm just a number. And I thought, you know what? Yeah. Let me see what's out there that's more than just a W-2 job. Yeah. And all the research that I've done with real estate just kept me back going to it. Born and bred in New York City, I've always tried to find an entry point, and it was so difficult for me. Yeah. And that's where I decided to kind of look in my backyard per se. And my first deal I came across in Connecticut, which for me, door to door is about a 50-mile drive per se. Cool. And my first deal I closed in February of 2021. This was a multi-family home. At the time, homes in this market were sitting maybe 4 or 5 up to 6 months not being sold. Yeah. So there was definitely a buyer's market and there was some negotiation. Mind you, I come in this without a mentor, without much knowledge or experience, my first deal, but I was just going after quote unquote the cash flow. I crunched my numbers with the little experience I'd had with it, and I saw, okay, it looks like I can collect enough rent to cover the cost and leave a home with some. Yeah. So that first deal was a killer. It was a 4-unit, and at that time it cash flowed about $3,000.
Net cash flow?
Net cash flow.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, that small multi-family space in Connecticut is huge. And I felt like I came across a pot of gold. Yeah. And I definitely need to capitalize on it. So that first deal did take a chunk out of my pocket, roughly maybe about $80,000. Yeah. But I said to myself, okay, I'm putting about $80K, but I'm going to make that back probably 2-3 years, give or take. Yeah. So to me, that's an awesome investment in my case. Yeah. So lo and behold, I close on the property, get it all rented out with about 2-3 months. I said, okay, how do I scale this thing? But I'm short on cash. Yeah. Great thing with a lot of folks that have a W-2, maybe like mine, I have access to a 401k. So with that 401k, I was able to pull out a loan. That loan helped me get onto my third property. Second and third property. And from then, I just haven't looked back. Now, the neat thing about it is I've been very resourceful with my time. It's about an hour drive for me each way. Yeah. So you're talking about 2 hours of my day that I would do maybe 3-4 times a week at the beginning.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it took a lot of time and dedication. So instead of just listening to music all day long on those car rides, I decided to just come on, throw on some podcasts and what have you and educate myself. Yeah. So I kind of maybe did the reverse engineering per se, where I just jumped into real estate without knowing much and then started studying it more. Yeah. So that's where I started learning about the acronyms like BRRRRs, the refinancing, all that terminology. Yeah. I really started learning more about it after I indulged myself into the industry realm. Crazy. Yeah. And then after the 3 properties, this was 2021. I was able, in my first year, bought 3 properties. We go into 2022. This is where interest rates are starting to spike up and prices are starting to go up. Yeah. So I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to be able to scale to a cadence that I want to because of all the cash I needed up front. We're talking about 20% on a home that's worth maybe $300,000-$400,000 at the time. Yeah. So each home you're talking about $80,000. Yeah. And you can only stretch that so far. Yeah. So that's where I started learning more about BRRRRs and what have you. Did my first BRRRR successfully, and I shared the stories with many folks, and they're actually taken by it. But it was a home run BRRRR. So just to give you a quick rundown with the numbers, it was a 2-family home, $200K. By the way, I bought it. Connecticut. Sorry. Okay. Everything is in Connecticut thus far.
Damn. Okay.
So I bought this home as a foreclosure. No experience ever doing that. Bought it through my phone. So there's some apps out there that you're able to buy homes through an auction, online auction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like auction.com.
Yeah, like auction.com, for example.
Sweet.
I think I bought mine through Hubzu, if I'm not mistaken.
Hubzu. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought that not knowing a thing of what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
Prior to this deal, I always had I did an inspection, I did an appraisal, but when you go through a foreclosure, it's as is, and you don't really have access to the property.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a gamble on it. I mean, looking back at it, it wasn't the right move. Yeah. But it paid off well. It was more of a gamble more than a strategic move per se.
Yeah.
And long story short, I rented it out, refinanced. At the beginning, I probably put about $40,000 out of pocket. And at the time, home prices were soaring so much, the refinance, the ARV, I just never thought it would have gone to that point. So at the closing table for the refinance, I got about $60K.
Wow.
So I recouped my $40K.
Everything.
Got about $15K on top of that.
Jeez.
And to date, right now, I still have that property. It cash flows about $1,400 a month.
Wow. Got it. So do you still own those 3 houses today?
I have not sold a single property to this date. So I've learned quickly in the world of real estate, buy and hold is where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to, nothing against flipping. I want to flip too.
Yeah.
But you're comparing your big payday today, where if you hold that property X amount of years from now, you could probably get more than double that big payday.
Especially with that amount of cash flow that you're pulling in with those houses. Why do you think that? Was it because it was just like perfect timing? Like, what can you go and buy that same deal today, or is it because interest rates and can a New Yorker now? Because there's been many people sitting there over the last week that I met with, right? That like live in New York City. They've wanted to invest locally, and they're like, dude, there's nowhere to invest. So like, are those deals just like non-existent anymore? Like what you found? Yeah,
they're pretty much non-existent. The only way you can probably make those numbers work is if, again, you come across a foreclosed property but you don't have to
take the gamble
and invest a lot of time and money, what have you.
Yeah.
Just about a few months ago, I finished another BRRRR, biggest one to date. People call me lucky, what have you, but I've done about 5 BRRRRs to date thus far.
Yeah.
All have been home run BRRRRs. I've gotten all my money back.
Wow.
And the cash flow and the equity has been insane on that. So my last BRRRR, it was 3 properties I bought during the summer of last year.
Okay.
And I was not in a position to buy 3 at the time. Still recuperating per se from my previous homes or what have you.
Yeah.
But these deals were just too good to let go. And the power with borrowing money in LLCs, I was able to get certain business loans that high interest, but again, learning how to leverage debt wisely. Yeah. I took that on. Yeah. So in total, I took about $950,000 in debt with hard money lenders and private loans as well too.
Yeah.
And fast forward to beginning of this summer, those 3 houses appraised at $1.7 million.
Nice.
So you're talking about
800K equity.
Yep. And awesome, got all my money back. And now to date, those 3 properties collectively cash flow about $5,000 a month. Awesome. Just those 3 alone.
Fantastic. And then how many do you have in your portfolio now?
So to date, I have 10 multifamilies, about 30 doors. In total, I'm cash flowing close to $20,000 a month. And my current portfolio is worth about $3 million. I'm sorry, it's worth about $5 million, and my debt is about $3 million at the moment.
Amazing job, man.
Yeah, all within a matter of 3 years. And those podcasts have been definitely helpful. Yeah. And I've been following you for about maybe a year or so. So guys like you definitely have been inspirational for sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Congrats on the portfolio success. So question for you. I mean, a lot of questions about it, but like, deals there don't really make sense. So obviously I think you've started to expand out of state, but I want to talk about how you built that portfolio for someone, because I want to kind of walk through the steps of like how much freaking effort it was. So like you found those deals, it sounds like on Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Hubzu, kind of like, and then you were just analyzing them with just a spreadsheet found online, or how did you even know like how to analyze those houses?
So a lot of it had to do with help from my realtor. Okay. Looking up rental comps on the MLS, the reports that he would give me, what have you. And some of it also is kind of indulging myself in the environment where I would go to the local
Networking
delis,
events,
bodegas,
yeah.
network with the neighbors or what have you,
Oh,
and kind
that
of just
kinda
blend
networking.
myself in. You know, when I walk the streets, nobody knows I own these homes. They kind of think I'm kind of a local per se.
Yeah.
So just talk to people and, you know, start a conversation and lead to eventually how much they're paying for rent or where do they live, what are the conditions that they live in, what have you.
Oh,
So just, I mean, there's one thing about, you know, numbers don't lie, running reports or what have you. But I think the other aspect of it is indulging yourself in that environment and finding out what's behind those numbers. What's the lifestyle? What's the demographic of the folks living there?
Yeah.
So that definitely helped me a lot. That actually helped me come across 2 off-market deals too.
Okay.
So out of my 10 properties, 8 were on the MLS and 2 were off-market.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. And then to find, you mentioned realtor. So did that realtor help you from like start to finish all of those houses, like from your first deal, or the first deal, did you do it alone? And then how did you go about the process of even finding like a competent realtor?
So the realtor was actually through word of mouth reference.
Nice.
This was before I had any really thought about real estate.
Yeah.
A cousin of mine started with his first property, and I said, "Hey, what is this all about?" I asked him about it, and he told me his cash flow. His cash flow was about $2,500 a month on his first deal, and I was like, "Wow, it's amazing." You know, put me on. Let me know who you've been talking to. So I had the one-on-one conversation with the gentleman, with the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Very awesome, sincere guy. And the funny thing is, he's only a realtor part-time.
Yeah.
He's actually, I don't want to give away too much, so I won't even mention his name, but he's actually a firefighter here in New York City.
Okay.
And the neat thing about firefighters, they only work maybe 2-3 days a week, and the rest are off. So that off time, he's out there hustling, selling real estate. And he's selling, I mean, to date, he's killing it. He sold about $30 million to real estate. He's focusing more on the high end. There's the Greenwich, Stanford areas where there's just millions of money out there. And he's selling those $1 million homes. So I drag him into the ghetto all the time. I laugh. Where I'm putting him in, you know, C-class neighborhoods per se. But the thing is, you know, what he gets, one property, one client, he gets about maybe 3 with me.
Exactly.
So with me, it's about the volume. And on top of that, I've referred him a lot of business. And it's been a reciprocal relationship. So he's helped me tremendously and vice versa.
Awesome. And then what are you doing for those deals? Did you do any kind of construction on any of those 10 units?
So my first 3 multifamily were all turnkey properties.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then the 4th one is where I bought a property kind of at market value, but it was very dated.
Yeah.
But it was already occupied. So I held on to that property for about a year before I really started dealing with the Band-Aids on it per se, because there was just a lot of fixing on it. But I just went off the cash flow. And that was really determined my my mindset. But when I started shifting my mindset to now properties 5 to 10, I looked at more the appreciation and leveraging debt. Because my thing was, my goal, okay, I want to buy 5, 6 of these homes and pay them off in about 10 years. But the thing is, what good is me paying off that home when I can use that cash, leverage it well, and, you know, continue to grow that portfolio. And that's where I stand with that today.
Gotcha. Talk to me about property management. Are you managing the properties yourself, or what are you doing?
I'm a one-man show. So I do it all myself. So my mindset is being that I'm burning these properties, I'm pretty much leaving them in tip-top condition. And I go the extra mile. I'll do new rough-ins of plumbing, mechanicals, electrical. So I know I'm not really going to have much problems years from now. And I do all the screening myself with the tenants, background checks, income, what have you. So when I vet a tenant and everything all checks out, they come to give them the keys. One thing I always stress to everybody, I'll give them the keys. Hey, congratulations, welcome home. First order of business, don't ever call me. And they're all like, wait, you're my landlord. And listen, I understand things are bound to break or need fixing. When that happens, please text me. Don't call me. Because I felt if I open up that line of communication and have them comfortable just calling me, I'm going to turn into a call center and just be, you know, receiving calls left and right. So to date, I barely get, I mean, I'll get a maintenance call once in the blue, but you know, they'll text me. I'll just forward that out to my handyman. Hey, take care of this for me, and call it a day.
Crazy. That's crazy. And then are these tenants that you're finding, are they all like market rate tenants, retail tenants, or are you doing any Section 8?
So I love Section 8. I try to push as much as I can for Section 8.
Okay.
Right now, it's almost pretty much a 50-50 in terms of my doors. So half of mine are Section 8, the other are not. And what I love about it, the majority of my Section 8 tenants, they pay $0 of rent. So Section 8 covers the whole 100%. Thing for them. Crazy. Instead of having to go after them for the $50, $100, what have you.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been fortunate with that.
Yeah.
And the inflation or market rents have gone up tremendously.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, I bought one home and a 3-bedroom apartment at that time I bought it. They were only paying me $1,200. I got the tenant out and it was because they were struggling just to pay $1,200 and they were just making my life pretty impossible.
Yeah.
I got them out. From $1,200 to date right now, I'm collecting $2,500 a month.
Oh my God.
All from Section 8.
Wow. Crazy.
Yep.
Talk to me about, so you have these units now, Section 8 tenants, you're self-managing the properties, right? Any like horror stories with managing these tenants, any eviction? Because I think Connecticut's probably a tenant-friendly state. So have you ever had trouble getting any tenants out of the properties, evictions? So
to date, I do have about a handful of evictions, but to my defense per se, those have all been tenants that I've inherited. So part of the deal that I've been able to create these properties at good prices, these were distressed landlords. So I inherited their headaches. I inherited the tenants that kind of make their lives a living hell per se. And following the court system and delivering all the paperwork on a timely basis, I've done evictions in a matter of maybe 2-3 months. Gotcha. So it's not too bad.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the ones you do have to be careful with are Section 8.
Yeah.
Not to get too lost in it, but they're covered by the CARES Act. So you can evict a Section 8 tenant for non-payment as quickly as you can a regular cash-paying tenant.
Oh, interesting.
So I had one tenant. It was just the tenant. Yeah, it was a big nightmare. I mean, just to give you an example, she literally threw dirty diapers out the window. So the lawn was just full of garbage. And it took me literally about a year to get her out.
Oh my God.
Because she was Section 8.
And is that because like, all right, let's say the rent's $1,200, right? Section 8 pays $1,000, which is typically normal. The tenant pays $200. So there's like a certain threshold that the tenant has to be like past due before you can evict them, even if they're behind.
Yeah. So with a standard cash paying tenant, it's 10 days. With Section 8, it's 30 days. Oh, so the first process to evict a tenant, you have to, in the state of Connecticut, serve a paper called notice to quit. That starts the process. Notice to quit is just a formal notice to that tenant that, all right, you have to vacate the property by X date unless you pay your rent.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, so it just delays it by those 20 days to even begin the freaking
Begin
process.
It, correct, yes.
Okay, interesting. Damn, how did you learn all this shit? Trial and error,
trial and error, that's all it is.
Lots of lawyers on Pocket Dial or what?
No, so actually, coincidentally enough, out of the 5, maybe 3 of them, I represented myself. So in the state of Connecticut, if you own a property under your own name with some of them, you can represent yourself in court.
Wow.
But if the property is under an LLC name, you have to hire a lawyer.
Wow. Yep. Okay. Interesting. So do you work full time?
I work full time on top of that as well, too.
What the fuck? Okay. So next question. When do you sleep then? Like that is mind blowing to me. So you managed 30 doors.
Yep.
You started in COVID. Buy your first one mid 2021. You've been buying these 30 doors, and you've had a full time job this whole entire time.
Yep, I have.
Holy shit!
I feel like I'm very efficient with my time.
Yeah,
and I try to make the most of it. Yeah. And do I have sleepless nights? No. I'll show you my sleep tracking. I sleep 8-10 hours a day. I still sleep is one of my, I can't compromise that. So I'm still, I'm very self-efficient. I mean, the days I have to quote unquote go on the field, drive an hour to Connecticut. Yeah. There's just Starbucks around there, so I'll manage. I go to Starbucks, open up my laptop, work there for a couple of hours. Gotcha. So I manage between both of them, and I feel like I'm very good multitasking. Yeah. And it's been very successful for me.
What do you do for work?
So I'm in sales.
Okay.
And the great thing with sales is as long as you meet that number, they're kind of off your back per se. And I've been very successful there. And I haven't had my investments kind of get in the way of my day job and vice versa. Yeah. So it's been very flexible there.
Cool. So making 20 grand a month from the portfolio, probably making good money from the sales gig. Why
have both? Why not choose real estate full time? Do you just like both? Do you want to have the double dipping? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
As cheesy as may sound, I've heard this so many times, and I think it's true. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Gotcha.
And I still love my day job. And
Good.
I had a certain goal where, okay, once I match what I make during my day job, I'm gonna quit it and go full time real estate.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I'm way past that number, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I think the next goal, I'm 36 right now.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna wait 4 years for my big 40.
Mhm.
And I want to take a leave of absence from my day job and just see how I adapt.
Yeah.
Because, think about it. Let's say you do go full-time real estate.
Yeah.
How much time of day is that really going to in my case.
Yeah, you have to have a plan.
Yeah, in my case, it's very passive.
Yeah.
So it's not like I've limited my portfolio because of time.
Yeah.
Where it's very passive. I mean, there's only so many deals you can analyze in a day.
Yeah.
There's only so many houses you can see in a day.
Yeah.
So till that day comes, I'm still going to juggle both.
Okay.
And part of it has to do with sanity. I think I'd go crazy at home, just fiddling my thumbs and not doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's
Gotcha.
part of it too.
100%. Talk to me. A lot of people that are listening have 9-to-5 jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They probably have 30, 50, $100,000 saved up to want to invest, which it sounds like that's what you started with that like $80,000. But then tell us about the other stuff. You hit on it a little bit. The 401k.
Yep.
So like you pulled money from the 401k. And then the second thing I want you to talk about is how you did like the business LLC kind of like funding. What did those look like? Would you do those both again? What would you recommend for people that have some money but maybe want to pull other resources?
Yeah. So with the business funding LLC, I literally just went through a Google search. Part of it started with social media.
Yeah.
There's a lot of posts out there seeing folks, open up an LLC and then you'll get an Amex card of 200K.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm taking this information with a grain of salt per se.
Yeah.
So I did research and I saw, business lines of credits or business loans that don't really impact your personal credit itself.
Yeah.
So I found that there was more opportunities open on the business funding side of the house as compared to the personal loan type of house. So that was definitely great. As far as what I took out as a loan, I took out a business loan, pretty pricey at the time, 100K.
Yeah.
So it was about a 15, 16% interest rate.
Okay.
So my monthly payments on that was about 3K.
Yeah.
But the deal that I got into was cash flowing between 3 houses about 5K.
Yeah.
So after 5K, I'm left with 2K after I pay off that monthly loan payment. So it was all about crunching the numbers and being very precise. When I'm speaking with these entities that do lease lending, I'm very precise. Okay, let me know. I need a breakdown line item list of all your fees, what my monthly is going to be.
Yeah.
Take that and compare that what's going to be my projected revenue with the deal I'm getting into with that loan.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've heard a lot of those different kind of funding sources. They're like, buy seasoned LLCs, buy this. And I'm like, dude, that all sounds like mumbo jumbo to me.
Yep.
But I guess it makes sense. It's just, I bet if I'm a lender and I'm lending to a brand new entity owned by you 100%, Lewis owns this 100% LLC, and it's brand new from 3 days ago. It's kind of like, all right, yeah, sure, I'll give you some money, but I'm going to charge you an arm and a fucking leg for it.
Correct. And I bit the bullet. Because to your point, I opened up these LLCs maybe a few days before, a few weeks before getting that lending.
Yeah.
But because I've had great credit, because you're pretty much the personal guarantor on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was able to get that approved.
That makes sense. Okay. Then tell me about 401k. So obviously you recommend that, but just transparently with the 15, 16% interest. 401k, like a lot of people have 9-to-5s, they have a 401k and then they want to invest in real estate. There's a lot of stuff online about investing. Like, how did you do it? Did you have to move the money to like a self-directed IRA? And like, how did that whole work?
So with my 401k account, I'm able to borrow up to $50,000 interest-free for 5 years. So it's basically a loan against myself.
Yeah.
Let me take that back. It's not interest-free per se. The interest payments that you make on that loan actually go back into your 401k.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that loan, I took that out, and that was definitely a big push. And on top of that, I did take out a HELOC off of my first property, and that helped out too. And I learned, again, just diversifying myself and networking.
Yeah.
I always say the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Yeah.
So I met other local real estate investors in the area.
Yeah.
And I started learning more about these no document needed business lines of credits.
Okay.
I'm like,
yeah.
how does this work? Run this by me. So initially, if you have an LLC open for X amount of time, depending on the bank, they'll give you a line of credit with no paperwork needed. All you have to do is just fill out the application. I know I had the same look as you're having right now. So just to give you an example, there's this one
and
bank.
did it.
And I did it, and it works. I had this one bank. I'll share the contacts with you. I don't mind.
All right, let's do it.
Because the thing is, credit unions operate a bit more differently as the big major banks.
Okay.
So financing, you're gonna have more options with credit unions when it comes to loans and financing as compared to a big traditional bank. So a lot of these credit unions locally, now I'm talking Connecticut, maybe it varies in other states.
Okay.
But in Connecticut, these credit unions offer me initially a $50,000 line of credit with no financial documents needed. All you have to do is have, I believe it's a 650 credit score or above, no bankruptcies, and then you just fill out an application. So I'm exposing myself now, but I'll just say it like this. On the application, there's a line item that says, okay, what's your LLC's revenue?
Yeah.
I'll put, wait a minute. They're asking for my revenue, but they're not asking any financial documents to prove it.
Yeah. Stated income.
Let me just throw a number out there.
Yeah,
sure enough, I got approved.
Gotcha.
So,
interesting. Okay, and that was with a local credit union.
Local credit union.
And then how much is that like? Also too, by the way, like a lot of the local credit unions only will do it if you live like whatever 50 miles from the bank and stuff like that too, FYI. But what was the interest rate on that? Was that still like the 10-15%? Or was it much less?
It was probably much less. Maybe it was prime plus 2 or 3%.
Oh shit.
So it's not bad. I mean, total where interest rates were at the time, it's probably about 10-11% or so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's pretty much like a hard money loan.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you ever go and get traditional then hard money loans as well for these deals that you were doing? Okay.
So my first BRRRR was with hard money. And again, I learned that strategy through podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, one of the big guys, is okay I mentioned guys?
Yeah.
Sam Prim, those guys from St. Louis, him and Lucas Walls.
Yeah.
Love those guys. They actually helped me. I learned the BRRRR strategy through those guys.
Nice.
So looking at shows like that, Bigger Pockets, etc. Definitely helped me, gave me the motivation I needed to capitalize on that. And as far as where to go with hard money, simple Google search. I found a nice firm out of St. Louis that was funding my deals out in Connecticut.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. Tell me about so you used hard money. A lot of people too, when they have full-time jobs, a lot of them try to go get conventional financing. Did you ever do any kind of conventional loans as well? Because I know people listening, you have a limit of 10. You obviously have 30 doors. So did you ever have to convert some of those conventional loans? Did you ever hit the conventional loan limits? Talk about that.
No. So my first 5 deals are all conventional. And then the other 5 are BRRRRs.
Gotcha.
So my first 5 deals, I had to put 20% down.
Yeah.
But that 20%, I was got it from different ways. So for example, house number 2, a year later, almost went up 50% in value. It went up tremendously.
Wow.
So I said, okay, what can I do to get that money, touch it? Because what good is equity if you don't have access to it? Yeah. So I did a cash out refinance. It's controversial whether you want to call it. I did my first BRRRR without knowing it per se.
Yeah.
It's just that, I got into the property with a conventional loan.
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half later, it spiked up so much in value that I went ahead and refinanced that.
Yeah.
So I kind of did the numbers. Okay, I'm going to refinance this. And at the time, rates were going up there. So I had that property at a 3%. So refinancing it, I'm losing it.
Yeah.
And I think I refinanced it at a 5.25% per se.
Yeah.
So I just weigh the pros and the cons. Okay, I'm losing this interest rate.
Yeah.
And now my mortgage on that property is going to go up by $400 or $500.
Yeah.
But the capital I'm getting access to that, I'm just going to open up the door to another $2K of cash flow. So to me, it was all worth it.
Love it. Awesome. So that's been Connecticut. It sounds like you went on the last big buying spree last summer.
Yep.
Have you bought anything since last summer, like last 12 months?
So Yes, my last property I bought was in December.
Okay.
And I'm actually still in the middle of it to date. It's been my biggest headache thus far. So long story short, this property I bought in December has been abandoned for about 20 plus years. And looking at it from the outside is just, you want to look the other way.
Yeah.
It just looks horrible.
Yeah.
The only reason, and silly me, it was kind of an emotional decision too. It's right next door to one of my other properties. And I said, playing Monopoly, going, having 2 or 3 houses next to them. But I said, you know what? It's right next door to my first successful BRRRR.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I could probably repeat it here again.
Yeah.
So the property, I bought it, no water, no electricity, no gas, no services going to the house.
Oh, man.
So starting on it from scratch. And getting the water up and was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Electrical was a pain in the neck. The thing is, in the state of Connecticut now, they require you, meter gangs, the boxes where you put the electrical meters on, they require what they call a bypass now, which is basically a big red switch to kill the power from the outside. In case there's a fire emergency, the fire department can just shut off the power to the house from the outside.
Yeah.
Those boxes, we're still going through back ordered. And I mean, it took me about 5-6 months to find one on Facebook Market.
You're kidding.
I had to pay about twice the price to get the power rolling. It was either that or wait about a year till Supply House had those available. So didn't know that going into the deal.
Yeah.
So that killed about 4 or 5 months of working there. And then on top of that, getting gas activated to a house, it's very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
Waiting for the buildings department, waiting for the gas company. Because what they had to do was rip up the street in front of the house and run a new gas line to the property. Yeah, so that took a while. So
jeez. Crazy.
Yep, crazy. But all in, it's still going to be a BRRRR. It's not going to be a home run at this point, just because of all the interest I've been paying to date with that property.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool. And then I know that you've also been looking out of state. So I think you've been looking out of state for the last couple of months. Like, why the transition from Connecticut to out of state? Is it really just because deals don't make sense there anymore, unless you like find something that you really have to do a ground up? And why out of state, and then where you've been looking out of state?
So when I got to my 10th property, I just saw prices skyrocketing. Yeah. Just to put in perspective, I bought 3 family homes at $300K. That same house right now is worth $750,000. So I can sell that and have a big payday. Yeah. But what good is that to me in the long run? You know, am I going to have those gains 10, 15 years from now? Yeah. No. So I'd rather hold on to it. So that's where I started to branch out. And at the same time, I kind of want to diversify myself a bit and not just solely depend on my market in Connecticut. Yeah. So that's where I started looking at out of state, where I was looking at out of state investors, came across your profile on Instagram and others that are doing something similar to what you're doing too. Yeah. But my biggest restraint or why I haven't pulled the trigger is all the horror stories you hear. Even me as a seasoned investor, I still have that fear of pulling the trigger per se. Because I mean, I'm sure you've been through it, you know, getting screwed over by contractors, what have you. That's been my biggest fear. Yeah. And I've been more comfortable here investing, quote unquote, in my backyard. Because I can drive up to the property. I can see what's going on. Yeah. But I'm not at a capacity to jump on a plane and see what's going on with those properties out of state. Yeah. I don't want to get to that level. Gotcha. So that's what kind of pushed me to go out of state. And at the same time too, going back to juggling various things, I'm actually, you mentioned ground up. I am building right now too in the middle of it. So I bought a lot last year in Connecticut. Okay. I'm in the middle of building a 6-unit and I'm very excited about that. That was tough to start because for you to get financing in the new construction world, you have to have experience. The problem is if everybody tells you need experience, where are you going to get the experience from? Exactly. If everyone's shutting their doors on you. But luckily, through my connections, my lawyer is actually on the board of a bank locally. Yeah. And they kind of hooked me up per se and gave me a loan. It's not favorable when you compare it to other new construction. Yeah. But I said, you know what? I'll take it. Yeah. Because all in, the property's going to cost me with land acquisition and costs $700,000 or so. Jeez. And it already has an ARV of 1.2 million. Yeah. And that's a sick thing about new construction, the equity that you have walking out with that property. Yeah. But the problem is with that, it takes time. Yeah. Right now, we're going into October, 10 months later. Yeah. I still haven't broke ground. Jeez. I'm still waiting on approvals, permits, all that stuff. Yeah. So that's what helped me kind of motivate and look elsewhere too.
Yeah.
Because nothing else is really happening in my backyard. I always have my eyes open, but I haven't really seen many deals pop up that make sense for me. Because now the competition also in my market, as well as others, is the families. Yeah. Now, you know, small families are getting into buying the distressed properties and rehabbing it themselves. You know, maybe to do the FHAs or what have you. So now that opens up the door for more competition that makes it more difficult for folks like myself. And not to be whining or anything, but make it more difficult for me to scale.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think those people are always going to beat us too. Right. 100%. Because they don't give a shit about like the margin or ARV. Now it's an emotional decision, which we all know. Like the property you bought next door. Yeah. Now the numbers don't fucking matter anymore. So it makes it tough. And I think like for you too, like the biggest skill that you have to learn next is like to make it so that you learn a skill that like I can go into any market USA and build a team and do what you've done in Connecticut, but learn that like, how can I build the team correctly out of state across many different markets? Cause then, dude, same thing happened to me. Like I was investing in Cleveland, Ohio in one zip code. We used to buy houses there for 60 grand. Today, they're all worth 150. Memphis, Tennessee, we used to buy houses for 50 grand. My first house was 35,000 bucks. That zip code today, 160. Oh. And it's like, you know, so it happens no matter what, but it's like, all right, cool. But I can go pop into any new city that, you know, whatever, there's a mass rush or a ton of inventory and I can go turn it over by building the team on the ground. Yeah. So for you, what's kind of the game plan? So Connecticut's kind of shut down, or maybe just do a couple deals a year, a deal a year, if you can find some grand slam home run. But like, what's the kind of vision for investing out of state, build a portfolio, more of what you've done, just doing them in different cities and kind of like splitting up your chips, or what do you think?
So my biggest thing, I love the passive income. That's what I'm in search of out there, out of state. So I've never used property management. I've never really relied. I've kind of been the GC per se without knowing it, because I'm the one that I've always contracted the plumber, the electrical. But now learning how to hand off all those responsibilities to a team and entrusting a project manager, you know, all those things, it's going to be kind of a culture shock for me, where I'm used to doing things a certain way. But the thing is, our biggest asset to me is going to be time. And if you learn how to manage your time wisely and offset those responsibilities to your feet on the street, your team on the ground, I think that's where the scalability is going to be a huge play for me. And I don't have a number yet, but you know, hopefully, you know, through
FlipSystem
with the connection that I've made so far, I want to scale that out to 50, hundreds of doors, who knows?
Awesome. So continue doing the BRRRR strategy. And I mean, you're right. Like the biggest thing you're going to have to learn is to like let go. And like, just like, cause you've been so like, and we talk to people all the time, like very similar situation to you. Like, well, I have like 10 houses here. I mean, most people don't have 30 doors like you, but I have like 3 houses. They're all in my backyard. And like, I can never imagine like doing, it's like, well, then you're going to be stuck. Like you're going to have to move and evolve. So like props to you for like seeing the vision and then also like taking action on, which, you know, even from your first deal, you took action. It's like, there's a quote, it's called ready or fire, aim, fucking hell. Fire something, ready something, aim, fire something.
We need somebody on the background
ready, fire,
going
aim.
on Google for you and just helping you out with the code. There you go.
Ready, fire, aim, or some shit.
Ready, aim, fire.
It must be ready, aim. No. Oh, fire, ready, aim. Maybe that was it.
Is that a song?
Oh, fuck. That's a song by Green Day. God damn it. Ready, aim, fire. No, that's too... All right, fuck it. We're going to change those words around. Ready? Okay, ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim.
All right. Ready, fire, aim. That's the quote. So ready, fire, aim, where you're getting ready and then you fire and then you kind of aim after and kind of like try to fix what you've already done. So taking action first has always been my approach as well. How's it been going with FlipSystem thus far? I know it's probably like culture shock. Like what are some of the craziest culture shocks that you've noticed so far with like completely different structure that I have compared to you?
Not seeing it firsthand in person. That was, I feel, my biggest hurdle to start, where you have to entrust, you know, looking at the street view on Google Maps or looking at all the pictures that the, your realtor does and the walkthrough video that your realtor can do for you.
Yeah.
So even though you can capture every single angle needed through a video or photo, to me, to this date, it's like still, what if they missed a spot that we didn't look out for, what have you? But just in trusting the teams, that was my biggest culture shock.
100%.
And what I love most about it is just, I told them from the beginning, listen, even though I'm a seasoned investor, what have you, don't treat me a certain way. I'm coming in here with a rookie mindset.
Amazing.
Because, I can know things, but there might be simple things that I've overlooked in the past or what have you.
Yeah.
For example, your teachables. If you look at my profile, I've seen 100% of your teachables.
Amazing.
I've seen every single one. And I didn't want to overthrow. And a lot of them I knew. Yeah. Maybe 80% I've known all your teachables.
Of course.
But there were small things here and there that you made me look at it. Oh, I looked at it from a different angle per se. Yeah. So definitely came in with that mindset. And from the beginning, I started with a particular market. So I started in St. Louis.
Yep.
Gave St. Louis a few months. For me personally, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But what I loved most was the feedback and the input I got from the team. Yeah. Once you sign up for FlipSystem, there's an email out there, support@flipsystem.com. Yep. So you have a team out there of coaches or subject matter experts that help you along your journey. Yeah. So time to time, I've scheduled some calls with your coaches and tell them, hey, this is what's happening. Can you give me some feedback? Do you know what's going on? Yeah. And, the biggest thing was, keeping a positive mindset. It's a market. Thing is, markets are always going to change and evolve. And, there's a famous saying, if you do the same thing and expect the same results, if you do the same thing and expect different results, that results in insanity. Yeah. So markets are always going to be shifting and changing. So that market that you saw did something last year is not going to be doing the same thing this year.
100%.
So we started in St. Louis. Yep. St. Louis, from the deals I saw that made sense on paper, they were all cash deals. Yeah. So I couldn't leverage. I couldn't leverage hard money. Yeah. And that's what I found a big challenge for me in St. Louis. The numbers were great. Yeah. But if you're a cash buyer, now do I have the funds to be a cash buyer? Yes. But at the end of the day, I want to leverage that as much as I can, even though that some might look at it as the more expensive route. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when it comes to scalability, there's no better way of doing it than with the hard money.
100%.
So after a few months of going back and forth, got on multiple calls with your team, we decided, all right, let's give Detroit a call. So fast forward, I've been working Detroit now for about a month and a half. Awesome. And thankfully, I got my first one under contract now, and I'm super excited about it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Appreciate that. St. Louis is interesting in that way. Like, I think like half of the inventory on the MLS in St. Louis is like cash only. Which means that you can kind of sneakily get away with putting in hard money, but they want to list it and sell cash in the next 7 days, 14 days. And a lot of hard money lenders can't move that fast.
Doesn't make sense because that property been sitting on the market for months. Yeah. And they don't want to.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Why? And it's very weird. Like you mentioned, like you learn these little nuances of like different markets and how they list things and like is this common, is this not common, like even just title companies, like it's like, oh, in one city, like title companies do both sides of this transaction all the time, and then you go to the next city, just a state over, and it's like, oh no, we would never allow you to do that. And it's not like anything legal or anything. It's just like the norms of those markets, right? Yep. So, and especially for you, I'm glad that you kind of pivoted as well and didn't give up and pivoted to the next market. Now a month and a half under contract on the first one. Is that a single family house, or did you go back to your multifamily? Like, what are you doing with this deal?
It's a single family house. Cool. Hey, by the way, that phone app you got now for FlipSystem, amazing.
Appreciate it.
So what I can tell you is while I was analyzing deals, I was kind of constrained at my desktop, at my computer. Yeah. And sometimes you got to give an answer or get an answer pretty quickly. Yeah. So I tell my realtor, you got to give me a few hours before I get back to my office, what have you. Yeah. Now with the app on FlipSystem, I can kind of make decisions a bit more quicker and be more efficient.
Love it.
So if you don't mind, I'll just tell you real quick what I got going on with this deal.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because what I love most, one of the things I've learned about, with your teachables, don't go into a deal with just one strategy. Yep. Learn 100%. How to have multiple strategies there. Yep. So if plan A doesn't work, plan B is not going to be as bad.
Exactly.
So.
And have multiple different exits. Yep. So yeah, let's go through the numbers. I'd love to hear.
So I have this one property right now and the numbers were insane. But just to give you a general idea, I'm buying the property at, we got it on the contract at $40,000.
Jeez.
ARV of 115.
Okay.
Once we did the inspection and I had the scope of work with the contractors, the budget went up about 10K.
Okay.
So now I got it down to $32,000.
Okay.
So right now, after I love this calculator because I'm changing numbers here and there, boom, boom, and getting the results.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking at 195 ROI percent.
Jeez.
Yeah.
195%.
Yep. So cash all in, 13K.
Jeez.
Profit $25,000. That's on a turnkey flip.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to hold it and do
the
burr it out,
strategy.
we're cash flowing $337.
Awesome. And what's the return on investment when you do a BRRRR?
Return on investment during BRRRR.
Should say cash on cash.
Cash on cash return 15.36%.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So best case scenario, 195%. Worst case scenario, 15%. BRRRR the property out.
Yep. And
awesome, man.
The other thing too is that ARV, what I love about my team, they're very conservative.
Yeah.
So they're giving me an ARV of 115.
Yeah.
But this thing could easily appraise to 120, 125.
Love it.
But the thing is, that's another tricky thing. And I've learned that too in my backyard in Connecticut.
Yeah.
ARV comps, they're not just based on the square mile radius distance.
Yeah.
It's also kind of neighborhood specific.
Yeah.
So if you have a property, let's say it's maybe a quarter mile away, but it's on the other side of a highway, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of banks won't count that as a comp because it's on a different side of town,
Yeah.
even though it meets their half mile, 1 mile radius.
Yeah.
So that's why we're using a conservative 115 ARV,
Love it.
but it could easily go up to 120, 125.
Love it, man. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you love the app. How has it been working with this team in St. Louis compared to like your team that you have here in Connecticut? Like how's the differences been?
Takes a lot less time for sure.
Yeah.
I'm saving the 2-hour round trip drives. I'm saving the dealing with different contractors. So I love the time efficiency of it. And the overall time I'm putting into it. I forget the numbers that you guys, I think you say to be successful at this, you got to invest about 6 hours or so a week.
8 hours.
8 hours a week or so.
Yeah.
I've been investing a little, maybe I say about 10.
Yeah.
I've been really focused on it.
Nice.
And I just love what the 10 hours I've invested on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
All that I've learned thus far, even though I don't have a full deal under my belt.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I've got one under contract and everything is done. We're just going through, closing process or what have you, but I'm super psyched about it.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is that one-stop shop where this team now, after I switched from St. Louis, I'm in Detroit now.
Yeah.
With the firm I'm working with, realtors in the same house, project management, construction, property management.
Yeah.
I don't have to go shop around.
Yeah.
It's all in that one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And I love how easy it is that they make it do business for you.
Love it. Anything I can help you with, ask away. Anything that I can help you with, anything you need help with right now that I can answer for you, give you guidance on.
I wish I did, but actually I don't. And it's a good thing. And that just goes to show how good your team is.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the responsiveness, and any doubts I've had.
Yeah.
And also the weekly calls.
Yeah.
I've your dad has been on there a few times and all that. So I've been on those calls too.
Nice.
And a lot of it for me has been repetitive, information.
Yeah.
But I just listen to it and, be a fly on the wall and get to it. But those coaching calls have been great too. And I love how you guys have somebody who's a subject matter expert in certain things. You have Sean for the construction side of it. You have Mitch for like the financing, lending and all that stuff.
Yep.
So that's been awesome and very helpful for it too, for sure.
Awesome, man. Anything I can help you with?
At the moment, no. I mean, so my thing is one of the words of advice that you've given.
Yeah.
See your first deal through before you start scaling.
Yep.
And I'm kind of anxious. I just want to go all in already and do a whole bunch, but I have to trust the process and go through the whole thing.
100%.
So what word of advice would you give me for once I finish my first property?
Yeah.
How to scale? Because my magic number, I want to scale to at least 5 properties a month.
Okay.
Thankfully, the resources are there.
Good.
But executing that.
Yeah.
What can you touch on?
I would do, and that's good also. That's great you don't have any questions. It means that we did our fucking shit.
Yes.
So for you, my recommendation would be to see the first deal through 100%, just because you never know what's going to happen, or like you may change your strategy, be like, dude, I'm going to focus more on BRRRR. I hated selling this to an investor, right? Because you've also never sold anything. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've never sold anything to another investor, right? So like, it's going to be a big shift for you too, going from that like BRRRR mindset mentality, making the 20, 30, 40, 50% to then making a 200% return, but selling it. And it's like, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze for you? It might be worth it for other people, but is it for you?
Yeah.
So that's key number one that you're going to learn from that process. From there, then once you go through that process, I want you to double down. So I want you to probably get 2 or 3 projects going at any given time. 2 to 3 projects going at any given time gets you to around 1 deal per month, because 1 deal lasts 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So you can slowly just start buying a property per month and just kind of keep chucking along like that. And then eventually you look up in 6 months, cool, you got like 4, 5, 6 projects going on, all in different phases of construction or sale or acquisition or under contract. And so that'll also split up your work to where you're not like have like 10 houses under construction and, all hell's breaking loose, or 10 houses you have to sell in 1 month. So that's how I would do it. And that's how we've done it as well. Like when we were building Martel Turnkey in new markets, we'd go find a new team, test them out. Cool. Didn't work. Great. Test a new team. Cool. Didn't work. Test a new team. Didn't work. Cool. Team worked. Great. Double down with that team. Double down with that. Cool. Team fucked up. All right. Find a new team. That's what we would do. But with FlipSystem now, it's like you're getting that team already. So I'd recommend still testing 1 deal. And then from there, I would double down and just start like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to like start doing a deal a month or a deal every other month. And you're constantly just looking for deals, especially using the app now. It's super easy. That's why we made it, because guys like you are busy. And then you're at Starbucks or you're, in between meetings and you're like, oh, we're eventually going to get push notifications. But it's going to be like new house listed in Detroit. You can click it, boom, analyze it. Cool. Do you want to add it or send it to your team, send it to the coach? So it's going to automate the process even more for you. So you're not even going to think about it. You're going to be reminded like, oh shit, yeah, I have to analyze some deals today. So that'd be my recommendation.
And it's funny, going back to when I first started FlipSystem, you go through a general kind of interview call with a success manager or coach, is it? I forget the titles you have there, but they kind of have a feel, okay, what market they want to put you into. So I kind of chose St. Louis because you guys kept pushing Detroit at the beginning. It's like, you know what? I don't want to go where the crowd is running to. Let me go the other direction. And the thing is, one thing funny. You kind of cleared it up and it made sense. My worry was, okay, let's say you have X amount. Yeah, you have X amount of FlipSystem students in Detroit. That's just increasing the competition. But I don't know if it was you that said it or someone said, well, yeah, if you look at the FlipSystem students working that MLS market, it's only a small fraction compared to the overall buyer's market. So that helped me make, my decision much easier going back to Detroit. And Detroit is definitely, I do see the potential there. And I'm loving it thus far.
Good. Now that you're in it and you see the deals every day, like, do you see how much deal volume there actually is in Detroit? Like, because I think there's like hundreds of deals being added. There's hundreds of deals going around like all the time. So
So the thing is, I see the hundreds of deals and the expectation, I guess, that I made myself, should be much easier to get a property under contract if there's much more volume. That hasn't been the case for me. I mean, I've gone through probably over at least 50, 60 properties before I got my first one accepted. Because there's just so many little nuances. I mean, same thing I'd had in St. Louis was kind of happening in Detroit where a lot of folks wanted cash offer, but I'm like, your property's been sitting there for 6 months. Why don't you want to let it go? Or where they wouldn't budge on the price, because the name of the game, you don't want to buy at asking. You want to buy it at a certain price point so you can make a good ROI on that.
Got it.
But if you stick to it and you discipline yourself well on it. And the thing is too, it's funny, when I told my story to my realtor, he made it his priority to get a deal done with me, because he just wanted something, it was kind of frustrating on both ends. Because the thing is, you have to present the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is this 100%? No. You're going to have your hurdles. You're going to have your struggles.
100%.
But, if you're going to go across, you just have to put your head down, what have you, just focus and go through. And that's where I've been at it. And what helped me too was also that guarantee you guys have. This is all for folks that are maybe still thinking about FlipSystem. I don't want to talk about context. I don't know if you guys are still doing this, but this whole guarantee. When I signed up, there was an X amount of time frame guarantee. You can't close your first deal, money back, what have you. So that helped me make my decision there too. And to date, I haven't looked back.
Oh, love it, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day with your newborn. So I'll let you get back to it, but thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah. Pleasure. One quick thing now that I talk about it.
Go ahead.
So FlipSystem, It's about good for about 2 years, and after that, you pay for the portal. So talk to me about life after FlipSystem, because the mindset is to make you kind of independent on your own when we don't really need to rely on your resources anymore. So I'm curious to see what your input is on that.
100%. So yeah, typically it's 2 years. The program used to be, transparently, it used to be a year long.
Yeah.
What we found is that at 1 year, people were like under construction. They had like gone full cycle on one deal. The people who were like really were putting in the 10 hours, 8 hours.
Yep.
Had full cycle one deal, and they were in the middle of like 2 or 3, where they were in the double down phase.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, I have so many more questions now. Like, this deal worked a little bit differently than my last one. It's like perfect. But their contract was ending. And so we took like whatever, hundreds of people and just gave them an extra 12 months for free. Just like, hey, extra 12 months just to help you guys out for the next 12 months, get through this.
Yeah.
Now at that 2-year mark, it should give you the ability to get into one deal, full cycle it, a double down, and maybe even double down again, to where you're seeing enough reps and building enough of a case study to where you don't really need that help and that support and the guidance that you should.
Okay.
You really should, because we're going to put a lot more money and a lot more effort on the application to where like you can just use that. You have your team on the ground, which you get to use forever. The teachables, you can use those whenever. We'll keep adding to that as well. But you really should be well on your feet after 2 years if you're putting in the right input. So that's kind of our methodology, is like 2 years of like full throttle support, accountability, pushing people to get deals done. Hopefully you have a couple deals under your belt, and then now you kind of know the trajectory of where you want to take it, which is either like, I'm going to do a bunch of BRRRRs, turnkey fix and flips, or like, I hate real estate, I'm never going to do this ever again. Which is totally fine. Real estate's not for everybody. You know how hard it is, and it's not an easy business to get into.
Of course, of course. And lastly, what's your take on working different markets? Because what I've been told through your team, they just want you to focus solely on one market. Now, is that just the beginning, or do you think down the road when you have enough experience, can you venture out to different markets at the same time?
100%.
What's your take on that?
100%, especially for a guy like you that's already done stuff in your local market. Now I want you to try Detroit, but I think we can get you to Detroit. So Detroit can accomplish your goals already of doing 5 deals per month.
Yeah.
When you add in a second market, there's pros and cons. The pro is that you're diversifying your portfolio into another market. The cons is that it's a new team in a market you've never done. So you got to kind of restart from scratch. And that's difficult for people to understand and kind of like go from like, shit, I'm doing 1 deal a month, I know everything. And then they get like, they start in a new market or try to build a new team on the ground without FlipSystem's help and go try to build their own team, and then they get smacked and they're like, oh my God, this is what it's like. So I do think there's a certain point in which you do want to probably add a second market, go into other markets, build a team in like an own market that you do your research on, because you know the goal is to show you like what a perfect team looks like and what you should try to replicate if you were to go and do it yourself. So I think you're going to learn a lot of like how I built teams in the past, the realtor, property manager, contractor, how the communication should work, how they should feel working together. Like it all fits like well-oiled machine. So when you go to a new market and you go visit and you got to build that team on your own, it's like, I know kind of like how they should be communicating, how the communication should flow, all that kind of stuff. So that's my long rant on that. Definitely start with Detroit. Detroit can get you to 1, 2, 3 houses per month, even 5 houses a month, 10 houses a month. But if you do want to diversify, especially for a guy like you who's already seen that happen in your own local market where you kind of get bought out, to hedge against that, you do want to add a second market eventually.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
See you on the next one.
If you want more free content, I posted a 1.5-hour free course on my YouTube channel with no opt-in needed. Click the link somewhere on the screen and enjoy.